Hello, viewers of The Pioneer. How are you doing? I hope you're all healthy and well. The issue of the losses of the Russian army, which is among the issues we have mentioned in our previous reports many times, has come to the agenda again. Although the Russian administration has repeatedly denied their losses, they now clearly disclose that the losses of the Russian army are more than known with their statements. Moreover, there is such a situation that these losses do not occur as a result of the attacks of the Ukrainian army. As we have stated in our previous reports, the Russian army has some problems in the chain of command and firepower. This situation has caused the Russian troops to be in a difficult situation against the Ukrainian armed forces many times. Sometimes Russian soldiers were trapped in the positions and did not receive help from their troops. Some Russian soldiers allegedly lost their lives from cold, hunger, and thirst in areas where they were left alone. So what is the evidence that confirms these allegations? Let's take a look at the latest developments together. As the Pioneer team, we continue to reporting activities on the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the video. This support will make me very pleased. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. According to the intelligence reports published in the United States, the Russian army has lost almost 87% of its regular ground troops with the losses it has suffered since the beginning of the war. This is a very serious rate for an army. Moreover, these losses of the Russian armed forces have increased significantly in the recent days. The viewers of The Pioneer know very well that the reason for this. You guessed it right. The most important and major factor in the increase in the losses of the Russian armed forces is the Donetsk offensive in the Russian army has been conducting for nearly 2 months. We have already mentioned it in our previous reports. Both Russian soldiers are uncomfortable with the Donetsk offensives, and the Russian sources oppose the Russian war leadership to continue these offensives. The reason is simple. The Russian army is directing a large number of its troops to the Ukrainian positions without adequate fire support. This allows the Ukrainian armed forces, which have already built a very successful defense line in the region, to easily repel the Russian armed forces. As we have just mentioned, the Russian army has been attacking the Donetsk front line for about 2 months. The progress seen as a result of these attacks is very little, or rather less than the Russian army and the Russian war leadership expected and claimed. Casualties are also high. In particular, Russian casualties in the meat attacks, where inexperienced Russian soldiers and battalions of the prisoners are used, are quite high. This is reported that a large number of Russian soldiers could not contact their units and were lost on the front line. According to the information we have obtained from Russian sources in the past days, Vladimir Putin, the head of the States of the Russian Federation, has taken a new decision. According to the news, which provides us very striking details about the Russian soldiers, especially in hot conflict zones, Russian leader Putin has started preparations of a new training program for his soldiers. The main goal of this training program is to give survival skills to the Russian soldiers. So if the losses of the Russian army are not as high as it claims, why did the Russian administration make a new decision about the survival training of the Russian soldiers? Actually, the answer is very simple. Russian soldiers face a very difficult situation on the front line. According to the statements of their sources close to the Kremlin, the purpose of the survival training of the soldiers in the Russian army is expressed as follows. Our army personnel face difficult situations. Sometimes they are even away from their headquarters. Sometimes we cannot reach these soldiers for a long period of time. During this time, they need to know how to survive on their own. Colonel Alexander Prentazhiev, who teaches at one of the Russian universities, made the following statements about these trainings. In the conditions of the modern warfare, we need to find out what qualities the front-line fighters lack. We are facing Ukrainian forces behind which NATO stands. The enemy is a very serious enemy, and in order to defeat him, it is necessary to take into account many nuances. Physical training is the foundation that allows soldiers and officers to effectively fulfill combat missions and survive in difficult conditions. But it is a fact that we have soldiers who lack even this foundation. Thanks to this training, our soldiers will be more resilient in the face of the frightening enemies. We have no doubt about that. As it can be understood from the colonel's statements, the Ukrainian armed forces have shown a very successful struggle against the Russian army and have proven their successes. On the other hand, it is claimed that these trainings will include psychological trainings as well as the physical trainings. During the trainings, we can say that the larger scale training is planned for the Russian soldiers on shock preparations, what to do during shock and what to do when faced with the enemy or captured by the enemy. It may be thought that this training and news does not actually have much to do with the front line. However, this needs to be evaluated from this point of view. Many sources state that the military training policy of the Russian army has not been updated since 2008. This shows that the Russian army has recognized its weaknesses due to the losses it suffers against the Ukrainian army and has started to make efforts to eliminate these weaknesses. However, the Ukrainian armed forces have also improved themselves during the nearly 2 years of war. Therefore, we believe that the Russian army has a long way to go. The superiority of the Ukrainian armed forces over the Russian armed forces is evident in the operations of the Ukrainian armed forces. 108 separate mountain assault battalion of the Ukrainian armed forces recently released a short clip. In this clip, a number of Ukrainian soldiers are seen leaving the armored vehicles and reaching the positions of the Russian army. The footage of the Ukrainian soldiers advancing on the front line was allegedly recorded in the vicinity of Avdiivka. From this point of view, we can say that regardless of the conditions, the soldiers of the Ukrainian armed forces do not hesitate to attack the Russian army with a great determination and conviction. The Russian armed forces, on the other hand, are not prepared to difficult conditions and attacks. However, a new training program is being launched for the Russian soldiers. Therefore, a new training program is being launched for the Russian soldiers. The continuation of these conditions will lead to further destruction of the Russian troops. What do you think? Do you think the Ukrainian armed forces will continue to harm the Russian army? What do you think about the new decision to train Russian troops? Do you think is it correct to conclude from this information that the Russian army is in a difficult situation? What do you think about the operations of the Ukrainian armed forces in Avdiivka? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.